You want to make sure that your knock sensor harness is installed correctly. There's a longer portion and then there's a shorter portion. If you do it incorrectly, you're not going to have enough slack in the line for it to come up, and you're gonna have to disassemble everything. It's gonna be a real pain in the butt. You're gonna be disgusted. You're gonna have to do it all over again. So there's a short portion, a long portion. Make sure it's done correctly. Next, your intake manifold, place that on. I call it the green line just because of the green tip right here. You're gonna do that next. Put that piece on top, install it. After that is your fuel injector line. Make sure you put WD-40 when you're putting the fuel injectors back in to the cap holders. It'll make it a lot easier for them to slide up in there. When it comes to refurbishing your fuel injectors, it's definitely something I recommend that should be done. You can buy a new set or get a refurbished set. When it comes to fuel injectors, typically they don't go bad, they just need cleaned. Now, I do have the machine and I can do it for you guys. If that's something you're interested in, reach out to me. You can also actually go out and buy the machine yourself, and that's also a great option. That's what I'd actually recommend. Go out, buy the machine, and do it yourself. That way you can do it for yourself and your next H2 in the future. So, okay, you've got the green line on, your fuel injector line on. You're gonna have to actually put a lot of pressure on that. The way I do it is I kind of just work it back and forth, and then you press it all the way down. So it's got to be really set in there. Okay, you get that done. Once that's done, make sure this line goes over top of the fuel injector line. Is your PCV valve. There's been a few times where I have done this incorrectly. And then you're like, oh my God, I gotta take all this apart. So again, double check all your lines, pause the video, and make sure that is done correctly. Okay, when it comes to your wires right here, don't be afraid to get aggressive with these. You really wanna, again, I usually put my thumb on top and I kind of press down like that, or I really grab it and jam it upwards. You'll hear a pop. There's been a couple times where I've installed these wires and you think they're on when they're actually not on. So really, I mean, give it a good squeeze to get it up there. Same with those, the bottom, those boots, when you're reinstalling those, really press them in. You want to hear that click, guys. So don't be afraid to get, aggressive when you're doing this, and really push those in. Got our temperature harness. I was able to get mine back in, even though I broke it. I was able to get that back in. When it comes to your air intake right here, spray WD-40 inside the rubber boot lining and spray it on top of the actual metal or cast iron, whatever that is, piece. That way it's just going to slide on really nice. You want to make sure, again, underneath it doesn't bulge up. It's common for the bottom to be sucked inwards and it'll crumple and again mess up the airflow. Okay, so you've got all that completed. Fantastic. All right, let's come over to your air filter. Again, WD-40, just soak the crap out of it. Put WD-40 just on the tip of the mass airflow sensor. That's going to make installation so much easier, guys. Pro tip, when it comes to the headers on the passenger side, from my experience over the years, it's much more difficult than the driver's side. You want to place the bolts inside the actual block first. The last 3 bolts that you're going to install are going to be from the headers to the catalytic converter. This is a real pain, guys. When you're working, I had my ladder set up right here, and I was leaning over, and I didn't have any of this installed. This is all uninstalled. That's the way you want to be coming in when you're doing these headers. So get one screw and just work your way across, then put your gasket in. It can be a real pain because what's going to happen is the catalytic converter is going to be coming out and putting pressure on the end of the headers. So take your time with this process. Now, when it comes to down here, okay, I want to give you guys a close-up of what you're going to be looking at. You can see how it sets in there. That's normal. Those 3 bolts, those are the new bolts. These are the longer bolts. The driver's side has the shorter bolts. But it's not an issue to use longer bolts on the driver's side. When it comes to taking those 3 old bolts off, quite often I've seen these bolts just totally rusted and seized. I hit them all 3 of them with a blowtorch, and I actually snapped the heads off all 3 of those bolts down there when I pulled them off, which is fine because you're going to be using new bolts. If you can snap the bolts off, cleanly snap them, right underneath, right there. That's fine. That's what I did. I actually used what I used was a die-hard. For one of the bolts, I used a die-hard. It's a socket set for like 45 bucks. It's for stripped bolts. It's common for those bolts to be totally stripped and just gone. So let's say I think it's like a 13 mil or 15 mil, whatever it is. We'll say 13 mil. If the 13 mil doesn't work, try using a 12 mil and you can hammer it up in there. I've had success doing that. I actually have an impact gun. I've had somewhat success with an impact gun. But from my personal experience, I've found that quite often you just have to use like a breaker bar, or I use my torque wrench. And what I did is I put on a 1/2 inch. It's designed for strip bolts, the die-hard strip bolt set. It's 45 bucks. It's a great tool. You can actually use that tool if you would snap a knock sensor bolt. I was able to hammer it on there, and I snapped the head off. It was absolutely fantastic. So when it comes to this process, again, use the WD-40. The headers can be a real pain, guys. If you got somebody helping you and they can pull down on the catalytic converter, that will give you a little bit of extra room to navigate. Now, another thing is when it comes to this dipstick tube right here, how do I want to say this? I actually told you guys to order a new piece in the past. And I think, again, for a lot of you guys, you are going to have to use that new piece. When I took this piece off, it was actually, overall, it was in really good shape. I had a little bit of rust, so what I ended up doing is I sprayed Eastwood on the whole dipstick, and that's going to prevent the dipstick from, rusting out in the future. When it comes to reinstalling that dipstick, again, you really don't want to put on the wires on. You probably can wait till the very end to put the wires on, because you can see looking down there really isn't that much room. When it comes to that dipstick, how it's held on, it's actually only held on by 1 bolt. Where is it? Right there where I'm pointing at. So what you can do is install the headers, and then you can install the dipstick tube last. Surprisingly, it was a sunny day a couple days ago when I did this, and when you're looking down, you can actually see that hole. You will actually be able to see the hole they're going to be putting that dipstick tube in, and you just want to line it up, push it into the hole, tighten it down, and you guys are going to be good to go. So good luck. Again, just take your time, and you guys are going to do great. Can't wait to see you on the road.